From New York, I'm John
Hello.
Gonzalez alongside our NBA insider Bill Ryder and Ashley Nicole Moss. And guys, we talked about this on a previous episode of the show, but did we pull it off organically that we ended up with red, white, and blue today?
Oh, wow.
I
We
think
did.
we did. Look at that. Look at us being so America. Let's go.
Well, it could also be Serbian colors depending on who you ask. So we might be in a little bit of a conundrum here.
We've planned for all occasions. It works for everybody. We also know that who's going to be in the gold medal game. France just beat Germany. It is the first time since 1996 that the host country will medal. So Ash, you got your wish there of France being in the gold medal game. Makes for a good storyline. Later in the show, we're going to discuss Devin Booker saying that he thinks it's harder to win an NBA championship than it is to win Olympic gold. Charles Barkley crushed Joel Embiid. I wonder if that was fair because he's been playing a little bit better. And then Draymond Green, I think this is fair, crushed Rudy Gobert for being benched in the previous game. And the same thing happened today against Germany. So we'll get into that. But first, we're going to do a little Team USA Serbia semifinal preview. That game is coming up right after our show. First round knockout stage. Team USA beat Brazil.
Yeah,
No,
listen,
previously you had mentioned a conspiracy theory about how maybe Serbia had held off the gas a little bit, maybe sandbagged the USA.
Look, I remember that, John. I remember that theory, and I like the idea of Serbia kind of holding back a little bit. The thing is, and this is probably going to sound disrespectful to the Serbian team. I don't mean it to be as much as this is just absolute respect I'm laying at the feet of this USA team, which should have no excuse not to dominate this game and win the gold medal game against France. We're just too good. And so the only strategy for Serbia is for Nikola Jokic to play every one of those 40 minutes. The reality is, and I know we talked about this in Serbia's game that got them to this point, he has been outstanding. And in the last game he played against USA, he played 31 of the 40 minutes. And over that stretch, guys, as we talked about, that was a Serbian team that held America to a draw. They were even. Their box score plus minus as a team was 0 when he was on the floor. And for the 9 minutes that he sat against this USA juggernaut, They got outscored 29-3. So, look, I think America's going to win. They're the dominant force. We have talked a lot in the last 2 weeks about when this was a controversy that's kind of gone away. Whether Tatum should get minutes, how he's going to get minutes, should Embiid be starting or not when he got off to this really slow start? Should Anthony Davis get more time? Why isn't Steph Curry working? As for me, and I know we've said this before, America's too good. They're too outstanding. They're too dominant. The only world for me where Serbia has a chance, and I guess you play the game to see what happens, is if Nikola literally plays every one of the minutes. And it's not preposterous. NBA games are 48 minutes long. So to play a 40-minute game in its entirety in the Olympics is the amount that we've seen him play in some finals games and some big playoff games. But look, I'm not trying to disrespect Serbia, right? I'm not. But man, if Jokic doesn't play every minute of the game and they don't get some help from some of those guys in that Serbian team beyond their normal level, feels like a rout for us.
I mean, yeah, let's speak to that, right? Let's break that down because I feel like there's multiple layers to that, right? For starters, I think the Serbian team, they're big, but they play slow, which is a direct contrast to how Team USA likes to play. Offensively, defensively, they just play at a quicker pace. They can go ahead and control that pace, and it's just a direct contrast to how Serbia likes to play. And really how I feel like most Euro teams like to play. It's not really a game that's known for its speed. It's a game more known for its physicality, obviously with FIBA rules and things like that. They rely more so on their size than they do their athleticism. And that's not to say that Serbia is not athletic. They're just not as athletic as Team USA. But talking about Jokic, this is a Jokic-centric team, as you can expect, right? He leads in points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks. He's shooting 60%. But also the thing that stuck out to me when kind of deep diving into this is that when Jokic is on the floor, Serbia has been able to outscore their opponents by 43 points, right? But when he is on the bench, they have been outscored by 12 points. And when you think about the game on July 28th specifically, even in those 9 minutes that he sat, which in the grand scheme of things is not a lot of time for somebody who's putting up a lot of minutes. When you look at the point differential at the end of the game, and obviously Kevin Durant had a phenomenal game, so nobody could really stop what KD was doing. But if you go ahead and just look at the point differential itself, all of those points came majority in when Jokic was sitting on the bench. So unless they, like to your point, Bill, plan on playing this man the entirety of this game, he has to sit eventually, and Team USA is going to use that to their advantage and run up the score.
Yeah, I think they have to play him every minute. And John is back with us. And John, I was thinking about this as Ashley was talking. It's so there's almost a catch-22 here, because I think you can make an argument. It hasn't mattered, but I think you can make an argument that there have been times where America hasn't had to play with their foot with the gas all the way down 100% because they're so talented. And you would think that maybe playing Serbia would catch them a little bit, but the fact that it's for a medal, to go to the gold medal game. And I wonder if just the fact that Jokic is the best player on earth and everyone knows it, 3 of the last 4 MVPs, if that focuses USA a little bit more. And look, you're going to play with Jokic, you're not going to – you take him. But I don't think you can look past a team, even a Serbian team, if you're this USA squad, with the fact that you know how good Jokic is, you know he can take over games.
Yeah, I don't think that they're going to look past him. I just think that they're too deep. I mean, Joker is amazing, and he can absolutely influence a game. And I assume that you guys were talking about they might have to play him 40 minutes while I was taking my little time out.
Yeah,
sabbatical
right?
here on live television is wild. But beyond Joker, right? Because you're going to throw Embiid and AD and Bam at him. So that's 15 fouls right there that you could use if you really need them. But beyond that, who scares you on the Serbian team? We've seen this before. I know that, again, I alluded to the conspiracy theory that, maybe that they weren't showing something strategically, but I don't know what they would actually show.
It's not a conspiracy. I mean, it is, but it's been a well-documented conspiracy theory. So it's definitely not just you. Steve Kerr even spoke about it.
Yeah, I know. And there's a lot of people who have said, hey, maybe they weren't showing something. But my point is, like, what aren't they showing that could possibly mean that they could upend Team USA, right? Because beyond Joker, and this is what I wanted to get to, beyond Joker, who scares you? They've got Bogdanovic. He's a very good basketball player. And then you're into, like, Vasily Micic territory. Like, well, I don't know where they go beyond Joker.
I mean, to your point, right, I think it would – the only thing that they could possibly be hiding, if you buy into the urban legend that they play chess, not checkers, is maybe that offensively they have more three-point weapons than they like to lead on. But, the basketball fan in me says, well, I don't see how you can be a phenomenal three-point shooter and just not show any signs of that in 2 to 3 times that you play a specific team. It would be such an intricate part of your game that there would be signs of life there. I personally haven't seen that type of offensive firepower from the Serbian team. And listen, I'll say this, if they are hiding that, they are ninjas, assassins, whatever you want to put out there. They are exceptional at deceiving the competition, because to be able to flip that switch would be something that I don't think I've ever seen before.
There is no way to hide the fact that Serbia has one player, and he is the only player, to your point, John, that America fears. Now, there is a maxim, and I think it's real even at this level of sort of this separation of talent. If you have the best player on the floor, you have a chance. And the thing about Jokic, I know we know this, but it bears repeating, his level of being outstanding isn't just singular. He also creates for other guys. He's probably the best passing big man in the history of the game. He's one of the best passers just in the game, period. And so he is going to he has so much gravity. He'll create open shots for guys. He'll create opportunities for guys. And that means he makes players who aren't as good markedly better than a lot of other superstars. It's easier for that to work when you're playing with Jamal Murray and the Denver Nuggets, because that's a more talented group of guys. But he's good enough to make every one of those Serbian players, even the ones, really all of them, who don't strike fear into the hearts of America, potentially effective. They'll have to have an on-shooting night. There'll have to be some inspiration from Serbia. But the thing about Jokic that's so frightening is he does raise the level of every guy around him. And that's true when you're playing in the States for the NBA. When you're playing for your country and you're this close to gold, maybe Jokic puts some inspiration. It's not fear, but maybe it makes it more of a challenging game than we're expecting.
Yeah, I think it's what we saw before. I think that what we got in the exhibition game and then got in the group stage game is what's going to end up happening here. USA is way deeper. Serbia, I don't think has nearly enough talent. And to Ash, your point about flipping the switch, I mean, like you guys are right. I mean, they're playing potentially for a medal here. It's the Olympics. We just saw with the France game how jazzed the crowd was. Everybody who's not American gets super, super into this, and Americans do too. But it means a lot more to the rest of the world, and we're going to talk about that in just a second here. I just think like they barely flipped the switch against Australia. Had to go to overtime.
Yeah.
I just don't see a world where Serbia wins.
I
this
will
game.
say this though. I do expect a more competitive Serbian team than we saw in the other two games. I don't know if it's because it's the exhibition and people don't take those seriously. I don't know how lax they actually were. I don't buy in the whole conspiracy theory of the chess not checkers thing and they're going to flip the switch. But I will say that I do think that this Serbian team can be a lot more competitive than we have seen them in the previous matchups against Team USA. So I would not be surprised if we had a much closer game, a more competitive game, a little bit of a nail-biter game, but I ultimately don't think that it's going to be enough to where you say, oh, they're going to pull the upset. But I will give them credit that I think they're better than what we have seen in the previous matchups against Team USA.
Yeah, I'm at the opposite end of the spectrum, but we're going to do predictions later in the show, so stick around for that, and we'll see where the three of us fall on that. We're going to take a break, and then on the other side, we're going to get into Devin Booker's comments about which is harder, winning an Olympic gold medal or an NBA chip. That's on the other side. You're watching Beyond the Arc on CBS Sports Network. Welcome back to Beyond the Arc on CBS Sports Network. John, Ashley, and Bill hanging out before Team USA takes on Serbia later on. You can also find us wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Please download, subscribe, and leave a review. Ash, this is something you flagged. So Devin Booker, a couple days ago, made a comment to the media that got some traction. I'm going to read it to you. He said, I feel like all the best talent in the world is in the NBA. And this is coming from an Olympic gold medalist who believes that being an NBA champion is probably harder to do. I didn't think much of this at first. A lot of people took umbrage with this. What did you think, and where do you fall on this?
Okay, so if he's talking about winning gold and being an Olympic gold medalist just from basketball alone, I don't argue that at all, because I am somebody who believes that the best talent in the world when it comes to the sport of basketball still is in the USA. That's why I don't have an issue with NBA champions referring to themselves as world champions. That doesn't bother me. Yes, Noah Lyles, it does not bother me. But if he's talking about being an Olympic gold medalist as a whole, that's where he loses me. I mean, we're talking about a sports competition that only comes across every 4 years. You're going against all of these countries in this globe, every corner of this world, where you don't know what the level of competition is in a certain sport, how much that sport means to that country, what it would mean to win the gold. I mean, Olympic gold medals are just like the ultimate rock star status to some of these countries, and they pay them handsomely if they go ahead and win one. So when we're talking about the Olympics as a whole, I got to disagree with him. I think that, NBA championship, you have multiple times to go ahead and in a series, even it out, win it. I think you have a lot better probability to go back, especially if you're one of the top teams in the NBA. I mean, think about teams that have two-peated, three-peated, teams that have constantly been in the finals, the Eastern Conference finals. I think that the talent discrepancy from teams that are championship ready in the NBA is a lot larger than I feel like it is when you start talking about the Olympics and the amount of talent that there is in every part of this world to go ahead and fight for a gold medal. So he loses me there when we talk about the Olympics as a whole.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when I saw this, Bill, I was like, of course it's harder to win an NBA championship. There's 30 teams in the NBA, and there's only 12 in the Olympics. Some Olympic teams had no NBA players, or just a handful of them. And by definition, all 30 teams in the NBA have NBA players.
No, but you're just talking about basketball. I think he was talking about gold as a whole.
No, he's talking basketball.
I don't know. I think it was in response to what Noah Lyles said about world champions of what, and he's saying it's harder to win a championship than it is to be a gold medal, and that's where it's definitely easier to win an NBA championship than a gold medal, like in track or in swimming or in gymnastics when you're facing the entire world.
I don't know. I thought he was talking about basketball, but just to like refocus this for a second. We did see how important it was. The French crowd was super into it, and like they were so excited to get past Germany. Now they're into the finals, and it's a big deal. And Bill, you and I are talking about this prior to the show. What would it mean, like, if somebody like Joker ends up winning this whole thing? I think the importance to the rest of the world is pretty significant.
Yeah, and look, let me tie this all together, because I think that Devin Booker is right. He's just USA centric, like we all are. It's a lot easier to win a gold medal in basketball if you play for Team USA, because we should win. It is an impossibility nearly. If you're Wembanyama, if you're Jokic and you win the gold this time, and to your point, John, our conversation earlier, I was thinking about this. I know that none of us think that Serbia is going to win today. I don't think Serbia is going to win today. But it's not impossible, and these things happen. If by some miracle Jokic plays 39, 40 minutes and Serbia wins this game, and then Serbia goes on and wins the gold medal, that to me would be as impressive an accomplishment for Jokic on his resume when we sum up his career, when we try to put in perspective whenever he retires, as any NBA championship. I think it actually would be more impressive. Like, I don't know if that guy's going to be, when it's all said and done, the 5th or the 15th or the 22nd best player in the history of the game. But if he somehow takes Serbia to gold and beats Team USA on the way, for me, that is a GOAT sort of a thing. I'll start looking at him in the context of, man, if he wins a couple more rings, maybe he's a top 5 player of all time, because I do think it's easy if you're Team USA, and it should be right now. And I think as much as international basketball has improved, and it has, the idea of Serbia or France or any of the other teams that have been eliminated winning gold and obviously beating America, it's farcical. It is even farcical as we preview the game that's coming up here in a little bit. So if it's accomplished, it's an all-time great accomplishment. And for me, if you're Jokic, real quick, Ash, if you're Jokic and you are like trying to be top 10, top 15 player of all time, it is a very rare, once-in-a-generation GOAT resume kind of opportunity in front of you later today.
Okay, so we all agree an NBA championship is harder to win than an Olympic gold medal in basketball.
If you're
now,
American.
how do you feel?
If you're American.
Yeah. Well, we're talking an NBA. The NBA is American. That's what we refer. Yeah, so it's harder to win an NBA championship.
Not every player's American. Not if you're Wemby, or not if you're, these other guys.
Okay.
I think
but overall,
it's easier to win an NBA championship.
We're all in agreement with that. But where do you lie in an NBA championship being harder to win an Olympic gold medal as a whole? Do you think it's harder or easier?
That's like asking, is it easier to win a Grand Slam in tennis or a World Series or NBA? I love comps, and I can't even.
You're competing against the entire world. Of course, it's harder every 4 years.
Well, hold on, but you are competing against the entire world in the NBA. It's the best players, with like some very, very few exceptions for a couple of guys who are in Europe who could definitely come over and play in America. Like the best basketball players in the world from all over the world play in the NBA.
Yes.
It's a great question, and here's the answer. It is harder to win an NBA championship because it's a team sport. If you're the best swimmer, if you're the best sprinter, if you're the best anything if you're the best ping pong player in most of these judo competitors,
team sport, ping
you're
pong.
going to win. That's teams. Well, it depends. There's singles.
Doubles.
I've been watching. I'm super obsessed with it. I mean, Joker is the best player on the face of the earth, and he's going to lose today.
I'm just thinking in terms of. I hear what you guys are saying in terms of talent. I'm not arguing that. I think that the game is becoming more and more international. And I think in 2028, we're going to see a very different outcome, I feel like, in these exhibition games and these semifinals in the tournament as a whole, just because of how much the game is changing. I just think we're talking about a sports competition that only happens every 4 years, and you're not going against 30 of the best teams in an isolated environment. You're talking about the entire globe. I feel like that raises the stake of competition and difficulty level. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
It depends on, and this is coming from somebody who, we talked about this on a previous show. I've watched nothing but the Olympics for the last 2 weeks. I've watched, name a sport. Last night, I was sort of like with my friends who watched the Olympics. We were texting and they were talking about the synchronized swimming. And I was like, that's where I draw the line. I can't do synchronized swimming. I put it on for a minute and I was like, you know what's amazing? Synchronized swimming. So as somebody who has just been sucking down all the Olympics I can, it's just hard for, like, it's such a apples to oranges comparison. Like it depends on what sport it is, what the discipline is, like how many competitions, what's the field, right? Like some of the track events have like 8 guys in it and some of them have 20. So I don't know. It depends on what it would be.
I think it's easier in Olympic medal because if you're the best, you win. That is not true in a 5-on-5
Let's see you
sport.
get one then, Bill. You go get an Olympic medal.
Just because we disagree doesn't mean I think I'm Michael Jordan.
I want to see you get an NBA championship and an Olympic gold medal. When we come back from commercial break, I want to see you have both in your hand.
I will attempt to qualify and be victorious in the next 5 minutes.
In the next couple of minutes while we're in commercial break, we are going to go to break. On the other side, we're going to get into two big men who are taking all kinds of incoming fire. Charles Barkley against Joel Embiid and Draymond Green with Rudy Gobert. That's coming up. You're watching Beyond the Arc on CBS Sports Network. Welcome back to Beyond the Arc on CBS Sports Network. You can also find us on YouTube. We're going to be live on YouTube following the Team USA game. You can find us at Beyond the Arc CBS. We're going to do all of the reaction following the Serbia game today. Please subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment, all that good stuff. All right, so Charles Barkley went on Paul George's podcast, Podcast P, which never ceases to amuse me. I love that name. And this was prior to this last game. So I'm going to give Chuck a little bit of leeway here, but he had some pretty significant criticism of how Joel Embiid has played at the Olympics so far, and he said that something really needs to change going forward.
I hope this is a wake-up for Joel, this Olympic experience. He has not played well, and I'm hoping he's like, yo, man, I got to get in better shape, because me personally, I think that's one of the reasons he's always injured. I don't think he's in good enough shape. But I think the way he's played, which is not well during the Olympics, should be a wake-up call for him. Like, you know what? Yeah. I got to get in better shape. I got to get healthy. Because if we don't win the championship or go deep in the playoffs, it's going to be because of me. And, you know, he keeps getting hurt. And like I said, he got to take some responsibility for that.
I can't believe Charles Barkley was body shaming poor Joel Embiid. Terrible. But Bill, what he said came prior to the Brazil game where Embiid easily had his best game. We were joking around about how Brazil isn't any good, but still he had 14 and 7 in just a half of basketball. He looked much better. But does Charles have a point here that like this needs to be a wake up call? Because he's right. I mean, look, Embiid's never made it out of the second round before.
He is right. And I know you're joking. It's not body shaming when you play a professional sport and the condition of your body is one of the most critical components to whether you succeed or not. And I love the delicious irony, awkwardness, magic that Embiid's new teammate is that guy's podcast. I mean, just the actual setting's amazing. I love Embiid. And obviously you do, John. And Ashley, you don't hate Embiid. I want to be successful. I want greatness to live up to it. Okay, that's the nicest way I can say it. I want greatness to live up to its potential. And I am not a Knicks fan like Ash, and I'm not a rabid Sixers fan like you, John. I say this as a neutral. I'd love to see the Sixers in the finals. I would love to see Joel Embiid make a run and win a championship and have that narrative flip for him the way that it did for Joker, the way that it has for guys who have struggled to win in the playoffs and then finally figure it out. But he hasn't played well enough in the playoffs, and he hasn't played well enough in these Olympics. And if Charles Barkley thinks he's out of shape, and he looked lumbering to me, and we all made fun of how poorly he played before Chuck made those comments, yeah, there's something to it. Embiid's got to be better. And as he gets older, he's going to have to condition more. And he looks slow, and he doesn't look effective. And I don't think I'll have to check that most NBA teams are going to feature Brazilian roster-like guys who are short, unathletic, can't run or jump, and make life really easy for him. He's got to be better.
So I actually do like Joel Embiid. I take umbrage with that. I'm going to use John's word. I don't like sometimes his theatrics and things like that, but I think he's a talent, and I don't think you can be a basketball fan and not say that. But I'm going to push back on what Chuck said a little bit. I don't know if it's that Joel Embiid is out of shape. I think that we're talking about a player who sustained a lot of injuries, and that throughout his career. And I think that affects the way that your body is able to deal with just the intensity of an NBA season. And the 76ers rely on him heavily because they've had to rely on him so much. He is the focal point of, their offense, their defense. And I mean, this is why Paul George, getting him is going to help tremendously, or at least you hope, because you want to alleviate some of that pressure so that you have a healthy Joel Embiid come March and April. Maybe you don't have to play him as much. That has not been the story of his career for one reason or another. You want to talk about the Ben Simmons saga. You want to talk about the James Harden saga. I mean, John can talk about this better than I can, but you're talking about a guy who not has only dealt with a lot of injuries. Those injuries have been substantial. Those injuries, he may have come back from them sometimes a little bit sooner than he should have because he had to. So for me, there are some guys who are injury prone, not because they're out of shape, not because they don't take their conditioning seriously. There are just some guys, because of their high usage rate, their body breaks down. And Joel Embiid's a big guy. We're not talking about a Steph Curry sized guy. We're talking about a big man, not only height-wise, size-wise. That breaks your body down. And we've seen that affect players that have come before him and shorten their careers, which is why it's so important for Philly to figure out a way to elongate his career, because right now the direction that it's going is not great for his longevity as a 76er or just as an NBA player as a whole.
Yeah, with respect to how he's played in the Olympics, I think that it's been a little bit overblown. There's 12 guys on the team. He's sixth in scoring right now. He didn't play against South Sudan. Has he played as well as Bam and AD overall? Probably not, but he's been fine. I think they have bigger problems than Joel Embiid. Well, they don't really have any problems, frankly, and I don't think Joel Embiid is one of them either. But he is a really easy guy to hate. And if they beat Serbia, which we all expect them to do, and they play France in the final game, they're going to boo the hell out of him in that game. It's going to be super fun. But I do think what Charles said about needing to use the Olympics as like a wake-up call is right, because everything you guys said is correct. He has been injured. He hasn't made it out of the second round. They've changed everything on that team since he came in. They've had multiple different coaches. They've had multiple front office people leading the way. They've changed the entire supporting cast around him. The one constant since 2013, 2014, when this whole thing got started, was Joel Embiid, and he hasn't gotten it done. So I think that's completely fair. And to this point, is there anybody in the NBA, especially now that they go out and they get Paul George and they reconfigure the team and it looks like they're going to be right there with the Knicks to challenge the Celtics in the Eastern Conference? Is there anybody that you can think of who's under more pressure this season than Joel Embiid?
As a player?
It's tough.
I mean, Doc Rivers comes to mind. Yeah. No, I think he does.
Yeah, Doc's a good one. Doc's
yeah,
a good one.
But as a player, I'm just trying to pop around the league. No.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good call. It's him.
I mean, if they don't get out of the second round again, and it's going to be hard because you're going to run into one of the Knicks or the Celtics to try to get out of the second round. That's tough.
I mean,
that's really difficult.
I guess you could make an argument for like a KD. I guess you could make an argument for LeBron and AD. I guess you could make an argument for them.
I think LeBron's okay. I think LeBron's good.
Yeah, but I guess I think for me, if we're gonna, KD probably be at the top of my list.
KD's interesting
if you wanted to make an argument.
Yeah.
But if you're talking Eastern Conference, it's easily Joel Embiid. I mean, yes, you expect the Boston Celtics to kind of be back in the same position that they were last year, if not two-peat. Two-peating's very hard. We know that. We saw that with the Denver Nuggets. But if you're talking individual player, I absolutely agree with that. Eastern Conference, I'd give that Joel Embiid. Even throughout the league, I think it's Joel Embiid, Kevin Durant, like right here, neck and neck.
Yeah, Phoenix is a disaster of a trash fire. The Sixers situation is better. I don't know what they're doing in Phoenix.
And they're in the Western Conference. They're finished.
Yeah, so when we're talking about pressure, that's one thing. When we're talking about scrutiny, it might be this other guy that we're going to talk about on the other side, and that's Rudy Gobert, who I guess the French just decided to disappear him over these last two games. Only kind of sort of played today, and Draymond Green, in a shocking development, this is super on Draymond Green's radar. You're going to hear from him on the other side. You're watching Beyond the Arc on CBS Sports Network. All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. So the French are through to the gold medal game. Rudy Gobert, we're unsure where he's going to fall in this. He barely played in the win over Germany. They put him in at the end for defensive purposes. And then prior to that, he barely played against Canada. Only 4 minutes in that game, didn't even enter until the second quarter. So in the last 2 games, he's played a grand total of 9 minutes and scored 0 points. Now, after the Canada game, he said he had surgery on his finger, and then his coach went, no, he didn't. And so, not surprisingly, Draymond Green had some thoughts.
France had a very interesting plot twist going on. Big Rudy Gobert said he had surgery on his finger or something. France's coach said he thought the matchups was an issue. And so Rudy didn't start because of the matchups. We don't know what's true. I don't think we have any reason to believe Rudy's lying, except for the coach saying that it was for matchups. And in the 3 minutes that Rudy checked in, Shea started getting off. Wemby had a rough night, but coach said, I can't have both of my bigs not playing great. And, well, you decide who got to go. I know who I'd pick, but I'll leave it to you to pick. But, like, to be taken out of the lineup on any other team in the Olympics as an NBA player, not named Team USA, is kind of crazy.
I mean, Draymond makes a really good point that if you get taken out as an NBA player on any team that isn't Team USA, you got a problem. But just putting that aside, Ash, how much does Draymond Green love this?
He loves it the way I would love it if it was James Harden or something like that, you know. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? Because when we were talking about why Joel Embiid, if he was looking for a more solidified role, Bill and I were making the argument when we had Chris Walker on the show that it would be the French national team versus Team USA just because of how much talent is on Team USA. He disagreed, but we just thought that ultimately, yeah, it would not have almost guaranteed the gold, but you would have been a more prolific part of what the French national team was doing. I'm not going to discredit what France has done so far in the Olympics. There have been a lot of games that have come down to the wire. Yes, they're kind of reaping the benefits of being the home team, but ultimately they're playing great basketball. They're going ahead and figuring out ways to pull out really scrappy wins. So Rudy Gobert, but with that said, it's not like there's a lot of NBA talent on this roster. And for Rudy Gobert to be such an insignificant part of this roster, and he's coming off his, fourth DPOY, his third DPOY, it's not looking great for the Rudy Gobert campaign on why he should keep winning that award. I mean, he's not even on the floor to play defense. That's a little crazy to me. That's a little crazy.
Earlier in the show, Ash, you challenged me to get an Olympic medal, which I tried in the break. I've been unable to do. But, and I wish we had this, if you could award an Olympic medal for taking true, authentic joy in someone else's misery, Draymond Green would be the undisputed gold. He would be alone on the podium. They wouldn't even have a silver and bronze. That's the level. Yeah, John, I mean, I feel bad for Rudy Gobert, and I have had trouble watching that clip because I hate myself how much I enjoyed watching Draymond Green enjoy himself. Because he does a lot.
I mean,
why do you guys hate Rudy? Is it because he's French or like what's up?
No, I don't hate Rudy. I hate that I enjoy how much Draymond hates Rudy and how funny I find it.
You are 100% right that if there was a gold medal for Schadenfreude, Draymond would win it every year, all the time. I don't even know he'd have any competition. He might win gold, silver, and bronze. He brings up a good point, though. Aside from the fact that, getting benched on any team other than Team USA is like kind of a major slap in the face. Initially against Canada, they said it was matchup based. And you could kind of sort of maybe if you squinted at it enough, see what they were talking about because Canada, the way that they play is through their guards and their wings and their bigs weren't very good. And you're like, okay, well, we don't really need Rudy against Kelly Olynyk. And maybe you could see it. What's the excuse against Germany? Germany has a good front line. And he didn't play.
There's no excuse.
Like that, it's not matchup based.
The excuse is, and it's not valid, but I suppose the argument would be, I mean, it's all garbage, right? I mean, they just don't think he's good enough. But the new sort of PR twist you give, it's crazy, is, by the way, there are reasonably smart people in the NBA, and we've had this talk, who have different views on Rudy Gobert's value in the NBA when we get to sort of NBA playoffs and sort of different views of how much value he does or doesn't have in the postseason. So I guess you can make the argument his coach comes on the side of not a lot of value. But I guess the argument here would be, well, we got a good thing going. We're having some momentum. We like the rotations that we have. They're in the gold medal game. That's the other thing. This would be crazy if they didn't play him and it didn't work. It is working out just fine. Are they not
is
playing against
insane.
USA?
When you think about it, Aaron, our producer, just gave me the correction. I wasn't sure if it's 3 or 4, but 4 DPOYs for Rudy Gobert. And look, he's never really been known for his offense. That's not why, he's been able to win that award so many times. That's not why he's on the floor. That's not why, that blockbuster trade happened with the Minnesota Timberwolves and everyone thought, oh my God, they're crazy. It worked out in their favor until it didn't. But the thing is you don't even have him on the floor to do what he's supposed to be able to do well. And that's the most mind-blowing thing. And also, to both of your point, it's not hurting them. I mean, in that last game against Canada, Wemby didn't play that great. I mean, he did other things well, but offensively speaking, he didn't play that well. Rudy Gobert was a non-factor. He was on the bench, and they still were able to go ahead and pull out that win, which is mind-boggling when you look at Rudy Gobert, not only as a French national player, but also in the NBA. You wonder, what about his game actually makes him a player that you should fear? And if it's not his defense, which could be utilized on this team, exactly what is he doing playing for France? If it's why is he even there?
He better play. I mean, I think we're having the same thought. You go, John. I was going to say, USA is the tallest, biggest, strongest team, and assuming that we win, he has to play. He has to get minutes.
He has to play.
When Embiid's out there, right? He has to play.
You would hope.
He has to play. I mean, I was just thinking about this, and that was going to be my question for you guys. Are they going to play him? Because on the one hand, you'd think, Ashley says, well, why is he on this team? He's one of the best basketball players in the world, and he has won 4 DPOYs, and of course the French would be crazy not to put him on the team. Well, yeah, I mean, look, I don't know how I constantly am put in the position of being the Rudy Gobert defender on this show, but yes, he's good. Very good. He's a very good defensive player.
Great defensive player. I'm not going to argue that. Not arguing that.
But they are winning without him. So if you're the French, do you go, well, all right, look, you got to figure out how to deal with Embiid and AD and Bam, and at least he's got 5 fouls, right? You just go and send him out there and let him hack. But they are winning without him, so are you going to go away from the formula that just helped you oust Canada and Germany? It's tough.
John, I think the answer is you go with the formula that you had, and again, I'm presuming we beat Serbia, USA beat Serbia, and then when USA is suddenly up by 13 or 14 points or whatever's going on, right? You have the opening to sort of say, okay, you have to play. He is capable of playing at I can't believe I have to say this, at a high defensive level against the best players on earth, and so. But I mean, he's got to play against USA.
Which made what we're also talking about, if he does play, which let's just say if, because we don't know, he'd be going against players that he plays on a nightly basis who I would be willing to say half of them don't see him as an issue. We've seen how he matches up again. So there's only a handful. There's only a couple. There's maybe 2 or 3 guys on that team who he's going to give a real issue with. I think the rest of them can take. We've seen it in the NBA. We've seen him take them. Come on now, Bill.
I think he can be an issue in the rest. He's the 4-time defensive player of the year.
We've seen him go against these guys before,
Bill. Gonna work out.
I'm just saying. We've seen it.
During the playoffs, he had that, a bad game or 2 against Joker, and everybody just jumped on him and said he can't play Joker, and he shouldn't be out there. And I'm like, nobody can play Joker. That's it. Give him a little bit of a break here. I thought in the rest of the playoffs, he actually played pretty well, especially defensively. But here we are yet again questioning Rudy Gobert, and rightly so. Draymond again brings up a really good point that, man, if you're getting benched for Team France, that is not a good look for you. This just adds fuel to the fire of all the people like Ashley, maybe, who look at Rudy Gobert and go, he's not my bag. I don't think he's very good.
Listen, I don't think you win DPOY 4 times by mistake. I just think that maybe he's not as good as people will think he is or think he is. I'm just saying.
Why do you think people love to hate Rudy so? Because people know that Embiid is good and he plays a great villain. But people love to hate Rudy. I mean, we talked about it on a previous show where he got most overrated.
Yeah, he's French.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
I mean, guys in the NBA, I don't think he's particularly popular, right? He is not the most popular guy at the cafeteria at the school of NBA. I mean, those votes are personal and petty sometimes, right? I think it's the fact that he's voted the most overrated by his peers, I think is more about him not as much about him not being beloved as people really thinking that he's overrated.
I've always struggled to like, what is it about Rudy as a human being, and I guess as a basketball player, that like so many people are just like,
I think that a lot of
can't stand that
players
dude.
don't really understand the 4-time Defensive Player of the Year thing. Well, now I think that they look at his defense as not as, lucrative and not as deadly as it's made out to be. I think when you look at some of the other defenders in the NBA, I think that people feel there are other defenders who do more than Rudy does. Rudy does a couple things really, really well, which I think has catapulted kind of where he has been cemented in the DPOY conversation. When you look at him as an overall player, there are other defensive players who may not do those particular things well. They do other things well, and they also have an offensive bag, which I don't believe Rudy has. He's shown that it's not really his thing. So I just think that's a combination of him maybe not being well liked and also people feeling like his game is super gassed up when there are other defenders who do other things better than him and do things that he can't do, who have never gotten that same recognition. It could be a combination of things.
I mean, Donovan Mitchell was his teammate and did not like him.
Well,
and
he
could
started
not hide
COVID.
the fact.
Nobody would like him then.
I understand.
He gave him
but I'm
COVID.
just saying, here's the thing. I can't answer your question, John. It's a good one. Why guys don't like him? But guys don't like him. Like, I'm not speculating. He's not a particular popular person.
Yeah. Well, he's not going to have to worry about people hating him for winning DPOI anymore after this, because Wemby's going to win the next 10. So that takes the pressure off of him. We're going to take another break. And then on the other side, we're going to do predictions ahead of Team USA and Serbia. This is Beyond the Arc on CBS Sports Network. Welcome back to Beyond the Arc. John, Ashley, and Bill wrapping up the show. Team USA taking on Serbia in just a few minutes. Top of the hour here. That means it's prediction time. Bill, you get to do the honors and go first.
Closer game. Nikola Jokic plays all 40 minutes. He hits a desperation three-point shot. As time expires, it doesn't really matter, but makes it look closer than it is. USA wins 114-106.
Okay.
I had to do the math. So an 8-point game.
Yeah, but it's a little misleading. But yes, 8-point victory for USA.
That would be a win for Serbia.
Yeah.
I'm about 4 points underneath you, Bill. I think it's going to be a 12-point game. I do think, to your point as well, I think that Jokic is going to play all of the minutes. If he does sit, it's going to be those commercial breaks. If he does sit in a game, it'll be a 60-second breather, and then you get back out there. I think that's Serbia's best chance to make this as competitive as it can be. Like I said in the beginning of the show, though, I do think we'll get a more competitive Serbian team than we have seen. At least that's what I'm hoping. I don't think it's going to be this massive blowout like we have seen in the previous times we've matched up, but it's just ultimately not going to be enough. They play too slow. There's not as much offensive firepower as we have. I think ultimately Serbia is going to put up a good fight, but it's not going to be enough. We sent the Avengers out there, and they're just, they're Thanos without the Infinity Stones. It's just not going to work.
I do enjoy a nice Marvel reference. Put up a good fight. I don't even know what a good fight would look like. I mean, the last time they played, Team USA beat them 110-84. So I'm going to boost Serbia a few more points. I got Team USA winning this 110-90. I just don't think it's going to be close. We've seen this. They've already played twice. Serbia, I expected that they would be a better matchup for Team USA and give them some fight because of Joker. It just hasn't been the case. He can't do it all by himself. We saw that with the Nuggets this season when Jamal Murray kind of disappeared and then the rest of the team went in the tank. I think the same is going to be true for Serbia. So I'm going to go 20-point win for Team USA. But we'll be back on YouTube following the game. So come and join us. Check us out at Beyond the Arc CBS. It'll be me and Bill. Ashley's going to go do Ashley things. Sam Quinn from CBS Sports will be joining us. That'll be fun. So come and check us out. But for now, for Bill, for Ashley, I'm John Gonzalez. Thanks so much for tuning in and enjoy the game.